It has been another wild weekend of FA Cup football, and as much as we love the upsets, there is still just one topic, one bit of drama and controversy that people are talking about. And once again, it's VAR. As we know, this week's fixtures has not had any VAR and has had no technology in football. And us as football fans every weekend complain constantly about VAR ruining the game. But the FA Cup this weekend has shown that maybe we do need technology in football after all. Let's just we'll give you the quick highlights very quickly. And fans, please, if we've missed any of these controversial decisions, hit us up in the comments below. On the Friday, we had Leicester getting robbed with a clear offside given as a winner to Man United. Then we had a Brighton winner with a handball against Chelsea. Then we had a Blackburn clearly onside goal given offside. We also had the Newcastle winner not even cross the line given as a goal. And Jamie might even chuck in the Orient goal being a foul as well. I mean, that is one weekend of football, guys. And we're talking about 4 or 5 very bad decisions. Jamie, we'll come to you first and maybe you'll make the point on the Orient one. But there's clearly errors in not having VAR. And we've seen it so many times this weekend. Do you think we are just fickle as football fans?
Well, some people, I think a lot of football fans are, but it does show just helping the referees with the technology will get better decisions overall. Like, yes, you're still going to have some controversial decisions. You mentioned the sort of foul that I was saying was a foul when a player's not won the ball and taken out a player. The sort of VAR wouldn't necessarily 100% give that as a foul. So people will still argue about it. You still will get the argument points. But when you've got the clear-cut ones, the offside for Maguire to score the winner, that's easy, clear-cut, technology, draw the line, done, it's offside, no goal. The one for Newcastle crossing the line, it's a clear-cut thing. And overall, you might be getting sort of, 95% to sort of 97% right. And these few percentages matter because you're seeing teams being knocked out of the FA Cup now, meaning they can't win the trophy because of technology, which is coming in the very next round. So it's like, oh, sorry, we did it. We got unlucky a round before, where it just doesn't seem very fair and right when the decision could be easily overturned because it's a lot of grounds that can hold VAR. They do it in the Premier League. I'm sure a lot of the Championship clubs can viably do it. Okay, if you go lower down, maybe they can't, and which is probably the reason why it's not implemented yet. But get the right decision. Why not use it as much as possible, even if you can't do it at every single ground?
Yeah, I think it's weird that this flip-flap in between we have VAR in this round and we don't have it in this round. Because we've seen it in the Carabao Cup as well, not just the FA Cup. And it has caused some controversy in the Carabao Cup as well. There's probably a few more that I'm forgetting, but I remember Arsenal had an offside goal, I think against Palace as one example. And there has been a handful of other decisions. So I guess why are we having VAR in some rounds and not the others? I think you just either don't have it or we do have it. But for me, I think this has shown this weekend that, as we said, 4 or 5 different decisions in one round of fixtures, clear errors. I guess the other argument, and Reece will come on to you, is it just that officials have got lazy because they know they don't have to make the right decision because VAR will cover them up, and now maybe they're being exposed. I don't know, but of all the ones we've mentioned, the Leicester one feels the worst to me, just in terms of 4 players clearly being offside. Reece, what do you think on this whole debate?
Yeah, it's a complex one because I wasn't a fan of VAR years ago. I felt it was going to take that element of luck out of a game, if that makes sense. You know, a team that scores a controversial winner to stay up or whatever gets ruled out. It takes that element out, and it probably is going to create a bigger divide in a gap between the teams that come up, and the team, into the Premier League, because they can't rely on those things anymore. They have to actually get the job done themselves. But I've been supportive of it since it has come in because it's also accountability. It's making players and teams realise that they're being held accountable, and when it's going against them, they're blaming VAR. When it's not there, then all of a sudden saying, how they need it back. I think if we start with the Leicester game, obviously it was harsh. As in Maguire, goal shouldn't have stood. The linesman was in line with it, and it wasn't, and it was given. At the end of the day, you'll have days like that. We'll have bad days at work where we make that wrong decision. We look back and think, what did I do that for? He has to get it right in that heat at the moment, and it's really hard to do. Maguire, of course, was an advocate for VAR a couple of weeks ago in the FA Cup third round against Arsenal, saying how they needed VAR because of that penalty decision. I've noticed since then he's not said a word. So I would like to hear players actually come out and say, look, I've been a supporter of VAR and it's benefited me today. That goal shouldn't have stood, because they're not going to replay the game.
No.
So I'd rather he just admit it. And then that's the problem, because then he's not owning up to that. It makes it much more under scrutiny. I'd rather there just be a cohesive, balanced argument from that, but there hasn't been. But yeah, it was hard. It shows why we need it, but I also show how you have to have these moments in football. Have we really had them since VAR's come in? Probably not. We get more talking points about the complex decision making.
Yeah, I think the problem is, and you can flip it both sides, but it doesn't, having VAR still doesn't eliminate this sort of subjectivity. Like Jamie, for you, as we said, I think me and Reese on the chat were saying it's not really a foul for this City one, and it's like you obviously biased, but a lot of neutrals still would have said that's a foul. So it's like, even if we had VAR, that may still not have been given. So those ones I have less of an issue with, because it is still a bit subjective. But the Leicester one, the Newcastle winner, it's just like, what, like goal line technology. I know we're talking about VAR, but it's still technology in football. The goal line technology, like, why have we not got that in these rounds? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think we're saying, VAR is perfect by any means. I think the overwhelming point, and a lot of the pundits on multiple different channels have said they still do think, when they're asked, they still do think VAR is beneficial to the game. And yeah, I think as fans, we are very fickle. And as Reece, you said, players will be moaning one week, the next week they won't be saying a word. They just want whatever benefits them at the end of the day. And I think that is an issue.
Well, I think sort of also, like, us three have all done refereeing, and we've done it obviously lower leagues down. It's not quite as pressure as the sort of Premier League and the FA Cup, but we know sometimes decisions are, you're not going to see everything, and most of the time when we've done it, we have had linesmen of dads doing it, and do you actually fully trust them? It is different obviously in the Premier League and FA Cup where you've got proper officials, but everyone's can't see everything, and sometimes they are going to get decisions wrong. So that's why I think technology brought into the game will help. You see it in other sports and it does work. Like, there still are sort of scrutinies over it, sort of like cricket. They have like 3 decisions, and then the fourth, the umpires got it wrong, they can't appeal, and it's sort of tough luck kind of thing. But with football, I think if you can have it, you should always have it, just to make sure decisions are as fair as possible. I don't think it matters if United versus Leicester had VAR, but Leyton Orient versus City didn't, because Leyton Orient, you might not be able to do it at their ground. I don't know the actual logistics of it. They possibly could, but let's say they couldn't for money reasons, or just it doesn't work in their stadium. It doesn't make a difference. It'd be like with the decisions, sort of whoever it goes against will go, I wish we had VAR on that. But you have to go with, well, we can't because of the stadium it's being played at. And you can't be like, it must be in a Premier League ground, because that'd be stupid. So I think if you can do it, it should always be used. I don't agree with going the 5th round, it can be done, but the 4th round it can't, because, well, are you just hoping that all the sort of lower league teams are knocked out?
Yeah.
Because, so that it can be used. And I think that's a bad sort of way of going about it. So I think it's sort of, if it can be done, it should be done. Just help out the referees. Try and get the fairest decision possible. There still will be scrutiny, because football fans are biased. They will have their own opinions, and you'll have Premier League players are like having different opinions. You'll have, like, you've got Gary Neville and Carragher. they will have different opinions. One will go, that's a foul. One will go, that's not a foul. It's part of the game. But I think you've got to help the referees, really, with all these decisions. And VAR does do that, even if we don't like some of the rules.
Yeah, I agree. The bottom line is, you can. Well, I guess we'll get into it. You can slate the downsides, and there is obvious downsides still with the use of VAR and how the rules are actioned, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's there to increase the percentage chance of getting a decision right, and we have seen time and time again that that's what it does. And I think this weekend has proved it more than ever, with 4, as I said, maybe 5 clear wrong decisions that would have been overturned with VAR or vice versa. So let's just talk about the downsides, because look, we're saying we're all advocates for it and we all believe in it, as many pundits have this weekend. But I think it's still important to call out the downsides of it. We're saying, 1, it ruins the celebrating. Now, for me, I think that this is valid, but I think the flip argument to that is that you get to celebrate twice. Like, we've seen it many times, and I don't know what you guys think on that one, but you celebrate the goal, then everyone's like on edge, and then if it goes in, everyone goes nuts again anyway. So you could argue you're double celebrating in some cases. What do you guys think on that one?
I think it can dampen the celebrations, because like this year away at Wolves, we scored a 95th minute goal to win the game. We celebrated, but you didn't celebrate as much because we're going to VAR. So it kind of does hold it back a bit. Okay, yes, we celebrated again, but that it's sort of like the adrenaline goes a little bit, so it's not as big of a celebration. That might be just due to Wolves' ground having the worst away end, but it's kind of, it can, I think VAR does dampen it a little bit, because you're like, are they going to disallow it for 25 different reasons, hoping that it's not? So I think it can dampen it a bit.
I don't think it's that bad, actually. I quite like it. I like the suspense of that wait, and then it's that ecstasy or absolute deflation, whether it goes your way or not. I do like that element of, that suspense that comes from it. People will get used to it. I mean, I think we see the way some fans celebrate a basic goal now anyway is a bit over the top, jumping 3 rows and all that stuff. But I do like the suspense regardless of it, and I don't think it takes really away much from the game. I think it is quite good. I just think that when it comes to this sort of technology, I would like to know, is it just because it's too costly to implement it across the system? Because VAR wasn't used in the 5th round stage last year, and it wouldn't have been anyway, because it wasn't at a Premier League ground with the Birmingham game, for example. And the goal line technology is only available to Premier League and Championship. So, I do sit and think, if you can only implement it to some levels, you might as well just not have it, because at least then the team in League One would look at themselves and go, well, we could play to our strengths here, maybe bully them over the line, because they can't do that with VAR and goal line technology now. So I think that's the only one thing that kills it for me is when it's not implemented across the system.
Yeah, it's more though to the point. It's like, well, make your mind up. With the Carabao, it's like, well, if you want it, have it, and if you want to be a bit edgy and you're like, oh, we're not going to have VAR in this competition, then just scrap it for the whole competition. And then people are still going to moan if decisions go against them, but at least then you know what you're getting. It's very clear that that's how the competitions can be run.
Yeah, and then you've got the other argument. If we look at the semi-final last year, Man U Coventry, everyone moaning that because the offside was offside, they're saying how, you've ruined the magic of the cup and stuff. But the other way around, it would have been a completely different argument. Well, offside's offside, Man United, blah, 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 get used to it. So, again, fans are very fickle. Fans are very, they're very subjective. They want it for what benefits them. They don't care about anyone else. And football is a selfish sport. It's a selfish sport. There's none of this sportsmanship crap. I don't believe in any of that. You will cheat to win. That is a fact. Do you think Argentina care that Maradona handballed it? Do you think we would have cared if we handballed it against Argentina? No. So, we can't demand justice and implement this sort of thing for the game when we only want it for ourselves. I look at the tournaments and I think maybe just remove it for now if it's too costly, so that every team has a chance of it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think that's what they've tried to do, to be honest, with the Carabao. Like, that was a bit. I know they're trying to be a bit not edgy, but they're trying to be a bit different with the ties not going to extra time and going straight to penalties and stuff like that. But you're right. It's like either way, there's going to be an issue. And I think the kind of summary from this is that football fans are ultimately just fickle. We all are, and we want whatever goes. Like we want the decision to go our team's way at the bottom line. Like that's the bottom line of it. Is there any other ways before we kind of wrap up this debate? And obviously everyone who's watching, have your say below. Do you like VAR? Do you want it scrapped? And ultimately, would you change your mind the week after if your team got a bad decision? I guess that's the real question. What would we like to see changed from the current VAR? Let's end on that, because I think a lot of this argument is we're saying we believe in it, but we've got to acknowledge that it is definitely not perfect.
I think one thing is what they did in the Carabao Cup. Now, I have to say, when they make the announcement, like they did the announcements for the decision, and they were like, he's off, number 14's offsides, no goal, kind of things like that. I think it's good because of the fans in the stadium and even the decision making told to the people watching on TV. It just helps. It helps a bit because you understand the decision where it's gone. I know we can sort of, when you're in the stadium, you can kind of go, he was probably offside. But I think just a little communication helps with the fans getting over what the decision is making. And also, I think the other one is the rules, making sure the rules are completely and utterly clear as much as possible. I know there's always going to be some sort of scrutiny, but certain things they have to go. Like, I think even with offsides, it's like offside is offside, but however, if we are not sure and it is so close due to the angle, because I know like the camera angle at Crystal Palace is terrible in certain lines, and there's been times where people have gone, they've got that wrong because of the camera angle. I don't mind if they have something in the rule book going, if we cannot definitively say that is offside, we've drawn the lines, everything's close, we are going to stick to the decision that it's going to be a goal. It's sort of written out before anything happens. It's not just at Crystal Palace, it's just sort of all over. If we can't definitely tell, we'll keep the decision of a goal. It's like it'll favour the attacking sort of player or favour the defensive. It doesn't matter which way you do it, just pick it at the start of the season and keep it. I think they're sort of 2 points I think would really help VAR, so we're all very clear on it, and also make sure the commentators know the rules fully, because they impact so much of what fans think.
100%.
If they're going, why is he given that? In your mind, you're like, that might have been a foul, but you're 50-50. He's gone, it's never a foul. You then get that you get swayed by that. So yeah. I think if they fully know the rules, they can not pile pressure more on referees and VAR and focus on what we want to see, which is the game.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example actually on the commentators, because the Arsenal Brighton was the perfect example of that. I think it was Alan Smith, who obviously is naturally slightly biased towards Arsenal, saying he'd never seen something given like that. And it was like, the Arsenal fans are going to kick off anyway, but that just led him to absolute meltdown. And it was like, you've literally headbutted the guy in the box, like it's a penalty. But that just absolutely added fuel on the fire. So I think that's a really good example, actually. For me, I don't agree with you, Jamie, in the sense that the in stadium announcing helps. I don't really think it does. Like the other day, the in the Newcastle Arsenal game, like it didn't really add anything. Like clearly it was offside, hence like the whole stadium knew it was an offside. So I don't think announcing that really helps. It just puts more pressure on the ref just to get abused.
I know there's offside might be one that's clear, but say if it is a foul, it just sort of just giving us the small reason, a short reason, because he said it about a sentence. That's kind of all you need. It doesn't have to be just offsides. It could be number 14 fouled number 2, no goal.
Yeah,
because sometimes we are left sort of going, well, why has that been disallowed? it's sort of like just a small reason, one word, one sort of sentence, I think can help. I understand what you're saying with offside is offsides. People can guess it, but just don't give them any. I think it's just clarifying what the decision is, and I think that helps slightly. It's not going to help massively, but just slightly.
Yeah, I think the main point for me on that is the audio. And I've seen it in rugby. I think rugby is a really good example. I'm not saying we're ever going to get to that level, but I think some of the audio should be available or maybe live on the broadcast, because you want to understand their logic and their decision making. And I know we saw the Diaz situation, we saw that drama, and obviously in the end that caused more drama than it would have helped. But I think understanding the logic, the rules, and the refereeing's decisions, and the why behind their decision making, I do think would help, and it also humanizes the whole process. Because it's still human error at the end of the day. But if you can hear them, you can understand it. One, it makes you understand the decisions more, but it also educates the fans. The fans may not know every intricacy of every single little rule here and there. So I think that would not only help fans understand what is going on, but it might also educate fans and pundits in some cases as to the actual correct rules. I definitely think there is a downside to that as well, by the way, but I do think long term that could be a way to help improve VAR and in turn improve everyone's understanding of the actual game. Reece, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think that's the element is, first of all, you've got to start by making the rules a bit more simple. It's difficult because there's so many elements that happen in a game that can affect things, from wind to a bad kick to a bad touch. Anything can influence anything. But the rules have been made complicated because players and managers want them to be complicated, because obviously when they wanted handball to be handball, it started to go against them, and they decided that handball can't be handball, so they need to have leniency. So we need to, no sort of pun intended, but draw a line here. I think we need to see more. I agree with that element, maybe a bit more transparency, and just say, look, foul on number 18, that's why I've given it. Let a referee stick to their guns. The technology was never going to be perfect. It can't be perfect. Nothing can be. So maybe limit it to a couple of calls a game. I don't know. But also I'd like to see just some greater cohesion from managers and players, because, some would argue that VAR helped out Chelsea against West Ham last week. Maresca says nothing. Now all of a sudden Maresca's saying how he feels absolutely furious, about VAR against Brighton. So, and it creates that mentality with fans. You're right, we are hard done by, blah, blah, blah. Arsenal fans always think they're hard done by, but Odegaard got away with a handball at Anfield last year. Then you got people saying, oh, you can't. How many people said they couldn't call it, that ball going over the line against Newcastle with Birmingham at the weekend? But one person obviously apparently can. He was probably sitting in row W with a post in front of him, but he can see it. But he won't go down and referee, will he? So just everyone just get off everyone's back. Just rely on your quality for 90 minutes. But long answer, short. Let's just keep things simple and stop with this over analyzing thing, because this is what's creating serial mentalities of conspiracy theories and things.
Yeah, well, there you have it. We are all back in VAR, but we still think there's improvement to be made. But as always, we want to hear from you. Make sure to hit us up in the comments with your thoughts on VAR and some of the drama from this weekend. But as always, like, comment and subscribe. You know the drill.